On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick will try to determine what side of the Force is stronger, the light or the dark. They'll explore which abilities are more powerful, which characters have tapped into both sides of the Force, and other talking points about the mystical power and how each side approaches things. The dudes will also show off some leaked screens from the yet-to-be-announced Star Wars turn-based strategy game, and of course they'll end the show with the question of the week responses and the latest round of top 5 Star Wars fan artist features. Punch it, Chewie.
Val Kilmer died today.
Hey! Now, everybody, watch out. Close your eyes. I forgot to put the cap on, and things are getting contrasty on camera if you are here joining the live stream. If you've never heard of the live stream, or you're like, why would I want to watch these two idiots? Just in case, Wednesdays, 5:30p. Or as close as we can get. As you can see, it's 5:37 today. YouTube.com/Star Wars Time Show. All right, my friends, welcome back to the SWTS. It's going to be a little more action-packed than we initially planned this week, thanks to a stealth drop. I don't know what's going on these days, Nick. Maybe this is Lucasfilm's new strategy. Let's not wheel out KK to promote stuff that we don't know if we're ever going to get done. Let's just release stuff that we know is done stealth style. And that's what we got today for season 3 of the Tales of franchise, right? I mean, at this point in time, it's just become Tales of, because it doesn't seem we're returning to the Jedi anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that this is just becoming like the normal May 4th drop. So, I mean, we'll see how it is.
You're right. Wasn't Empire May 4 last year, I think?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, since it's shorts and there's probably only going to be 8 to 10 of them. So, they're seems like they're comfortable with doing this yearly.
We'll talk about more later. There's a few things I saw in the trailer that are interesting and might give us insights into the timelines we're going to cover with Asajj and Mr. Bane. We'll get 3 episodes each. That's the formula, it seems, for the Tales of. So 6 total coming with Tales of the Underworld, which I know is kind of a nod to projects George was working on at some point in time. All right. Tyler Delaire. Matt, I need real Cyclops visor, yellow lights up red, laser sound effects. All right. Mm-hmm. I need a lot of stuff too. I'm not sure how I can produce that for you, but I will do my best. I was hinting Matt to moderate my in-person Skeleton Crew panel at WonderCon by having all my S-Crew people on his show. Again, you got to make invites, all right? Not a mind reader over here at the SWTS, my friends. I know he's busting my balls a little bit because I was busting his. You got to remember, I'm a person too. I do take things personally. I'm watching each and every one of you that say you love us and think we're awesome, and then see what happens in the real world. I take notes, motherfuckers. All right, here we go. I was telling Nick I probably should have canceled tonight's show because I'm not in the best headspace due to some, personal shit. But who knows? If you want spicy Matt, you guys might get him tonight. Just watch what we're saying here. Bat, you aren't SW props, are you? So I don't think that makes too much sense. And an invite isn't like, listen, it's not, hey, come to, I'm not going to fucking cons anymore just to con out. If I am asked to do something, I'll be there. I'm not coming to just hang out, especially when it's across the country, okay? And neither is my man down there in Texas. We are top tier talent, okay?
Yeah, I don't go anywhere, anytime.
Period. If he ain't going home to Louisiana or fucking Disney World, he ain't leaving.
I barely leave my house.
Okay.
That's why I save up all this money, because I don't go anywhere.
I honestly wish I was more like Nick, because I think if I was more like Nick at this point in time, I'd be ready to retire, but I still get tripped up on fucking hot toys and now golf equipment, launch monitors, memberships to this. It's never ending. I hate myself. All right, we do have an action-packed show today. Like I said, lots of stuff to talk about. We got some video game news, some leaky video game news, the tales of the underworld, and of course, our special topic for this week, the light side versus the dark side. Which one is more powerful? We have 12 talking points to juice the conversation. I'll lead it. We'll see where young Nick takes us, kind of like last week with his expert deep dive into the legend Sith Lords of yesteryear. But as always, we're going to go ahead and start with a little Ask Us Anything. Not that there's many people asking us anything, but those that do, we still hear you. We speak your names. We love you. Here we go. There are actually some good questions this week, Nick, so hopefully this doesn't take too long. But last week was zilch. This week, plenty. If you want to get involved with this, as always, follow us on our socials and actually follow us and interact with our content. Okay. All right. AJ, you know what? If you're into that, that's good for you, buddy. Have at it. Whatever you like to do in your personal time is A-okay with the Star Wars Time Show. All right, Nick, here comes one from Nova Toymation. Did they bring back Asajj in Totu just to give her a proper on-screen death, or are they setting up future storylines for her? Your thoughts? Again, a good question from Bobo.
Yeah, I think technically they brought her back in Bad Batch. So I think, like you had mentioned before, Matt, there's probably going to be a lot of timeline jumping here. So we're probably not going to see just like a consistent, I mean, maybe there will just be like, it's just set in one timeline. Maybe it's just one through story all the way through. But I mean, I hope that they have some sort of plan. I hope they have some sort of plan for Asajj, because if it really is just like bringing her back to like do this little Tales of the Underworld stuff, and then she just kind of drifts off into the ether, I would like to see some sort of finality to her story, or at least know where she's going in the future. So it's hard to tell right now. Apparently they weren't happy enough with the death that she got in her novel. So they are now bringing her back to potentially be assassinated or killed by
Emperor Filoni wanted his toy back.
Yeah,
because like, fuck you, book people. That's why I've always told you, you people in the books, it's a waste of your time if you're a lover of canon. Because even if they're like, oh yeah, this stuff's going to be canon, they can still come in with the big swinging D's at Lucasfilm and say, not really. We're going to go ahead and we're going to smooth this over a little bit and rebrand it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope she gets something. But yeah, I don't know. I am of the mind that like, just leave those characters alone. There's so much more. There's so many other stories. Yeah,
here's the deal, man. I don't think we're not going to get a proper on-screen death for her in Tales of the Empire. Did they take out Morgan Elsbeth? I'm sorry, in Tales of the Underworld. Did they take out? They I guess they kind of show Barriss passing, sorta.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, Morgan.
I can't remember if they show her. I don't think they do show her dying, or maybe they do.
Did Morgan not die in Ahsoka? I don't remember anymore.
Yeah. So either way, you're not going to get Asajj's death in the Tales series, and at this point in time, my friends, I have a feeling that this is it. This is why they brought her back beyond the Bad Batch. I think this is it. I honestly do. I think in the three, we're already doing a breakdown. I'm going to save that, but more on this later. All right. More on this later.
Indeed.
All right. EKU Rory, if Jar Jar had a finishing move from Mortal Kombat, what would it be? This is actually a good one for his Jar Jar obsession.
If Jar Jar had a finishing move, it would be him announcing to the player that he is handing over the win to the person who lost, and then he would lose the game. That would be his finishing move.
Bat was right. Sorry, I missed that, Bat.
Yeah, he died. She died in Ahsoka.
Good call. I'm sorry, dude. What'd you say, Nick? What's your death so I don't repeat it?
Yeah, I said that his finishing move would be willingly handing over the win to the losing player, so you actually lose the match instead of winning the match.
Hell yeah, dude. You hit the combination, the screen goes dark, it goes doom. He puts on his Senate robes and he goes, I bequeath you ultimate power. It's like, I love it, dude. That's a fantastic one. Yeah, I mean, Mike Kramer here in the chat, thanks again for the super chat to kick things off. But I was thinking I have two. I have a tongue death. So you know how he likes that thing where Qui-Gon grabbed it? He just shoots it right into their mouth hole and out the back of their head. All right, so that's one. The other one would be an Eopie gas death. So when you hit the combo, the screen goes dark, and Opie's asshole comes in screen. Jar Jar bends over, and it blows out the gas, and it melts the character. So thank you. This is why Nick and I are creatives, and we should be snatched up immediately in the video game, film, or TV space. All right? Just like that. Just like that. We whip this stuff out. Look, Nick's going to perform his fatality on his cat right now.
Yeah. My fatality is putting her on my lap so she doesn't block my screen.
All right, good one there, EKU Rory. Next up in Ask Us Anything. We do it every week, coming from Scion XTC. Favorite TV show or cartoon as a kid, and would you like a remake? It's a good one.
Favorite TV show or cartoon as a kid? I mean, my favorite cartoon as a kid... Man, that's switched so much. I mean, I really liked the Ninja Turtles one, but there's already like a lot of new versions of Ninja Turtles stuff out there. There's even the new animated series on Paramount Plus, so that's already available and ready for all of you to watch. And then in terms of like a TV show, I mean, it's always Firefly for me. Like, I really enjoyed that show. I really enjoyed the characters and the narrative that were told, and I liked Serenity the movie as well. But that show felt like it had like a lot of legs. It could have gone for more seasons, so I probably would choose that one for a live action remake.
All right. Not bad. You are right. Cartoons are tough, and you know, I definitely grew up in the era of Saturday morning cartoons. You probably caught the tail end of it, even though my mom always made me go to fucking CCD Saturday mornings, ruin it. Luckily, my dad was a degenerate, and he'd tape Pee-wee's Playhouse for me so I could watch it when I got back from fucking church school. But cartoons it's tough. I'm with you, Nick. I think the most time I invested was probably in TMNT, the 80s 90s version of TMNT. So if we want to dip back even further, these didn't have as long as runs, but probably I'd say maybe Voltron. All right, Voltron would be a good one. And I think they're called Voltron or the Thundercats, probably.
Yeah.
Thundercats.
I know
Thundercats.
Ho! Thundercats had like a little bit of a reboot or whatever on Netflix, I think.
Okay. All right. And honestly, Nick, as a kid, we didn't have cable, so my live action TV watching was limited to what was on ABC, Fox, CBS, or NBC. So it would probably be some lame ass, TGIF Friday show.
Hey, TGIF Friday was like that's what everybody
Family
used to
Matters, Step by Step, that type of shit.
Yeah. I mean, that was what everybody used to watch those back in the day for sure.
And that's like listen, we all love cable, we love our streaming networks, but I do kind of like the simpler days of TV when literally TGIF was a fucking event for people in the week. I mean, I remember we'd gather around the TV come 8 o'clock, you roll in the Full House, Family Matters, Step by Step, and it was something to do on a Friday night. You know what I mean? So, hey, Baxter Williams coming in here asking a good question. Anyone else think the unnamed Jedi that Asajj is protecting might be the youngling Petro from the Clone Wars? I don't really know, because I forget that, but I do want to spitball with Nick a little bit once we get there. All right, so I see the stream has crashed already on one side, so we'll go ahead and get that popping here in a second. You gotta love technology these days, especially at the SWTS HQ. Yeah, Sir Dork knows what we're talking about. TGIF was an event.
Step by Step,
big time.
Family Matters, all that.
Devin Step by Step was my shit. That's right. Yeah, I mean, Mando, there is something to be said about appointment TV, and it's only been a few years. I mean, what do you think? Like 5, 6 years, 7 years, where that type of TV has just completely disappeared for most people.
Yeah, I mean, it's really
Netflix fucked it up.
Yeah, Netflix was the start of it. But I think that most of it came around when you just had all of the other streamers start to come up, like especially Hulu, because Hulu's whole thing was like where we have all your TV and you can watch it whenever you want. But yeah, I think it was probably it really kind of started to die in like 18, 19. Yeah,
like
there.
Kramer, he's a young guy. He doesn't even know what appointment TV. It's back in the day, Kramer, when there were no DVRs or streamers where you could watch stuff whenever you wanted to. You literally had to be sitting at your TV when the show came on. Otherwise, you had to hope someone in your house set the VCR to actually record on a timer.
Yeah. Or you try to catch the really late night rerun, because usually they would have like, if you're watching a show on Fox or something like that and it comes on at 7:00, they may throw you a rerun at like midnight or 1 a.m. So,
okay, Baxter, I know what he's talking about now. Petro is one of the younglings. Who knows? I mean, who knows? We don't even know when hers is going to be set. So
yeah, it's hard to tell considering that the timeline shift. I will say that little kid looks a little fatter than Petro.
All right. Okay. Yeah, and again, we'll spitball on this in a little bit once we get to Tales of the Underworld and our first impressions, but the kid is going to be of interest for sure, because he's wielding a lightsaber. He's described as a Padawan in the write-up, so who is he? What happens to him? Does he end up with the hidden path, or does he end up becoming someone we have known or will know in the future? We never know. Dave Filoni is so crazy. Mm-hmm. All right. Beast Mobile, our boy B-Mad, who I saw just show up here. Waffle House, IHOP, or Denny's, Nick? Very simple.
I have probably been to IHOP the most, if I remember correctly, because I used to go to IHOP every Christmas night with my friends in Louisiana when I would go back into town. And they still all live there. So that was probably the one that I went to the most. I've only ever been to a Denny's like 2 or 3 times.
You're not like Tiger Woods. You don't find your women at Denny's too often.
Do not. But yeah, my answer is IHOP I've been to the most, but I like Waffle House's hash browns. I like how they do their hash browns.
This is a tough one for me, because I've pretty much cut out breakfast from my life because I intermittent fast, so I don't start eating until noon every day of the week. And at that point in time, I usually want food, actual food. Breakfast food is great. It's a meal I've essentially eliminated from my life. So it's been a while, but I think gun to head, I'm going to Waffle House. Waffle House, essentially, it's not just a greasy spoon type of place that's open 24/7. It's also like the country's litmus test for national emergencies and weather disasters. If Waffle Houses start closing, shit's going to piss. So they do a service for humankind. And these days, especially over here in the States, with all this stuff being cut, we don't even know what's going on anymore. We need the Waffle House map to let us know if a big storm's coming. So watch out.
True.
So yeah, Waffle House. But if you want to talk about just straight food, IHOP, clearly their namesake is true. They do have the best pancakes out there if you're going to eat breakfast at a restaurant.
There you go.
Okay, this is coming from our boy Kramer. First one's for me. Thoughts on Mason Rudolph being the potential QB1 for this season? Ain't going to happen. I would welcome it, because anything that leads to the Steelers having a losing season and finally exposing Mike Tomlin for the fraud that he is, I welcome at this point. Bring Aaron Rodgers in, start Mason Rudolph, light the locker room on fire. Anything to get the Roonies to quit being complacent and fire that fucking guy that has made the standard not the standard. Okay. So number 2, how does someone become a member on your YouTube channel?
Oh, there you go. That's an easy one.
Look down there,
hit
right there. It says join.
Button.
Yeah, join channel, something like that. It's pretty much on every video we put out. I even think it's in the description. I put a link, so have at it.
Yeah. Right now, Mikey, click that join button, and you can even pick your level. It's $1.99. It's $4.99. It's $9.99 per month, whichever you choose.
Yeah.
There you go.
Bango. I know you love my Tomlin hate. I kept it short today because we got to get moving here. But yeah, there you go. Baxter is either an NFL fan or potentially lives in Pennsylvania because they get it. Mike Tomlin made it the standard of barely beat. Yes, thank you. Which means you never get a good draft pick, but you're always allotted as, I never had a losing season. Like that means something in real life. It's like, hey, I've never been less than average. It's like, hey, good for you. But I've been average my whole life. Fantastic. All right, here we go. This one's for Nick. Finally, Nick, what's Wheel of Time about? Is it like Lord of the Rings or is it something different?
I mean, it's high fantasy. If you like high fantasy, which is a rarer genre of TV to come across now, it's interesting. I would say that, like, apparently, well, one, don't read the books. There's a lot of them, and if you read the books, then that's going to make you not like the. It's going to make you not like the show because there's a lot of differences. But in terms of like an overall story, there is like an ultimate evil. There is a group of good light-sided people that are doing their best to stop this evil from rising. It is a very expansive world, so lots of similarities in terms of just structuring to Lord of the Rings and stuff like that.
It's more of a matriarchy society too, right?
Yeah, matriarchal society. There is more magic definitely in Wheel of Time than there is Lord of the Rings. Typically, Lord of the Rings, you're not seeing a lot of magic. But Wheel of Time, magic is one of the primary drivers of the story.
What's it called?
For our main characters.
Channeling, right?
Channeling, yes. Channeling the one power, as it is known.
Yeah, I finally tuned in this season, man. I don't know what's happened to me because this was happening with Severance, but I'm sleeping. I'm sleeping through some of these episodes. I'm up to the one you and League were like is pretty great, so we'll see what happens tonight if we get to it, but it's just it feels like it's a little scattered for me, I guess. It just kind of they got a lot of different kind of, what would you say, narrative leads this season, it feels like.
Yeah, there are a lot of different storylines going on and in different locations, which is different than the first two seasons because mostly through the first two seasons your mains have stayed together. Right. But this one, you definitely are moving around a little bit more. You have a contingent that are like out in the desert. You have a contingent that are, crossing the sea to get to a new place. And then you have a contingent that are, like in one of the local townships in the world. So a lot of different stuff going on. But yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of high fantasy, I would recommend it.
Yeah, it's a good watch. Like I said, I think I've developed some sort of sleeping. I don't sleep, period. And it seems now that if a show doesn't fully hook me, my eyes are going to shut. Doesn't help that my wife is usually, scratching my head. So that's kind of like an instant, I'm going, like it just knocks me out, dude.
Please tell me you're watching Daredevil Born Again. Says Be Mad. I have not been watching
I've got Be Mad, Don't Hate Me Too Much. I am 3 episodes in, and I do agree it is quality programming. It's
I know
it's legit. It's really very well done what I've seen so far. I'm just kind of slow rolling it. So don't hate me. I'm definitely just taking my time on that.
Yeah, I gotta catch up to it, but like I don't watch a ton of TV, and the TV that I do watch, me and Taylor watch together. And I showed her the trailer. I was like, hey, I don't know if you would be interested in watching this. She watched the trailer and she's like, you can watch that on your own. So
yeah, I mean, it's seemingly honoring what came before with the Netflix series, but sticking to that dark tone. I mean, it's definitely not Disney-ish, if that makes sense to people. And it's not PG-13. I mean, it's still pretty dark. But everyone involved is pretty top notch. What's the guy that plays Wilson Fisk? Gomer Pyle. Damn it, Vince D'Onofrio.
Yes,
Charlie Cox. I mean, it's quality stuff. Holy hell! Hold on,
Mike. Thanks for the $2. I was just about to get back to you, Mike. I have not read that series, but here's what I can do. I can recommend it to my girlfriend to read, and then she can tell me about it, and then I can give you my opinion on what she has told me.
What the hell is Red Rising? It sounds like some sort of commie thing.
Like a book series. It's a
all right.
Book series.
Bang goes on it, so it must be something legit. You gotta remember everyone.
Dystopian science fiction novel from American author Pierce Brown. I'm getting a lot of good book recommendations that I can give to Taylor from this chat, because Bango also hit me a couple weeks ago with Children of Time. So now I can give Taylor a second recommendation.
Here we go. We should just turn into a fucking book,
Game of Thrones
group.
Yeah, Game of Thrones mixed with Hunger Games. That actually sounds good, because I've read both of. I mean, obviously, I've read both of those series. I've read Game of Thrones and I've read Hunger Games, except for the newer novels of Hunger Games. I read the original 3.
Got it.
But that does sound very interesting. So good reco there, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right. Chat is active today. I'm digging it. Thank you, everyone. You're giving me the distraction I needed. I'm glad I did not cancel this show. Moving on! All right, this is a good one from Tones. A little long, so stay with me here, Nick. So, George Lucas appears out of nowhere in a DeLorean, jumps out, congratulates you both on the best Star Wars podcast out there, and asks you, and George definitely would do this, by the way. So guys, I can take you back to any time and any point from any Star Wars movie, any set, any scene, and add you in as extras. What movie and what scene would you both choose to be in, and why?
I think that's such a good question. And like, honestly, if I were to like sit down and think about this a little bit more, I might be able to come up with a better one. But like, my first thought was Tantive 4, A New Hope,
being one of the dudes, right?
Yeah, like I want to be one of those like scared rebels that with that like the featured extra where you like see his face.
Yeah, because now you could go to cons
in.
And make a career on signatures.
Yeah. I mean, that it's just like that was the moment. Like that's like when that door busts open on the Tantive 4, the blaster bolts start flying, Vader walks in. It's like that was the moment you realize, like, holy shit, this is something different than what we've seen up to this point before. This is a different type of sci-fi film when it came out in 1977. And then it sets the tone for the whole saga. And I think that like being one of those scared rebels there with my blaster pistol looking at the door.
You got it, dude.
I think that would be my spot.
I love it. Yeah, and Bat's saying I'd be a clone. And like, listen, I get you. I know you love clones, but if I'm going to a movie set, I don't want one that's just green screen. So I'm going back to George's OT trilogy, out in the practical world, studio sets, that type of stuff. I think young Nick had a fantastic call. Now, listen, you all know me. If I could be anywhere, I want to be in that throne room when father and son fight. But there are no extras in there, so I can't go there. Yeah. So I guess I would probably take being a goon on one of the sail barges. You know what I mean? Either an alien or maybe the guy that gets shot in the hand from Luke, because I still think I could make a career in signings from that.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, Kramer wants to be a clone trooper doing the Wilhelm. Nice.
The only thing about clone trooper is like I guess that's kind of what celebrities do now. Like Daniel Craig was a clone trooper, TFA, and like so you don't have to get your face on there. But like if I'm gonna do it as a non-famous person, I want to have my face on there. Yeah,
Bango, that makes sense. Bango's in law enforcement, so he wants to be an Imperial officer or in the ISB. Be mad. He wants to be one of the guys that sleeps with Jennifer Aniston and Horrible Boss. I like that. If George Lucas could get me into that, be mad. I'm with you, brother. Let's go.
Does George have access to that set?
That is a good one. I like that. All right. Great questions this week. I think we got a few more. Baron's Black Series. Top 3 favorite wrestlers of all time, male and female. Nick, you're probably going to have to go back in the eras. That's okay.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go back. So, I mean, for me, number 1 is for sure Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's not even close. Like that guy defined cool in the Attitude Era. And it was like, he was our best representation, in my opinion, of an anti-hero back then, because like really he wasn't the nicest.
Yeah, he
dude.
wasn't a traditional
like,
baby face, but he also wasn't just a heel. He was. Yeah, he's a new type of wrestler that The Rock kind of became.
Yeah, exactly. So I liked his archetype and I liked his vibe and just like all the shit that he was able to pull off in the Attitude Era. Number 2 for male wrestlers, Undertaker. I was always a huge Undertaker fan. Just that aesthetic, the craziness that always surrounded him with Paul Bearer and then Kane being his brother and all the storylines that kind of ran off of that. So huge fan of Undertaker. And then my third male would probably be The Rock, just because he went through so many different iterations, at least when I was watching him. Like
he was a failed baby face. They fucking hated him when they brought him in as Rocky Maivia.
Yeah, like I remember when he first came up and like he was trying to like follow in the footsteps of his father, like follow that same aesthetic, and then he becomes the people's champ and then the corporate champ and then all this other stuff. So like he was really cool and was able to really weave in and out of different storylines very easily. Top 3 female wrestlers. I mean, back then in Attitude Era, it was
they
just
weren't
like
really wrestling. So yeah,
it's like Trish Stratus. It's hard to even remember a lot of the female wrestlers back then because they weren't given a ton of spotlight. I mean, China was the only one that really kind of stood up and was fighting against the dudes, part of DX. So China was probably up there. And then for the life of me, I can't even remember a third one. I
Lydia.
Sure. I don't even know
with
who
the
that
Hardy
is,
Boys. Do you remember her with the Hardy Boys?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. She was pretty cool too. So
this is tough, man, because Nick's right. The Attitude Era, in my opinion, is still peak. And then I took a very long break, and I've returned in what has been dubbed the Renaissance Era. That's what's happening right now on Netflix, where Cody's the champion. And I do think there's some great male wrestlers right now, but top 3 of all time, like Nick, I got to go back to Attitude. I'm going The Rock for sure. Triple H by a million. Like Triple H is WWE at this point in time. And I think I'm gonna. I respect the Stone Cold pick, but since you picked it, we've already doubled up on The Rock. I think I am gonna go Mankind, Mick Foley.
Mankind was
Mick
fun,
Foley
dude.
was amazing. I mean, that guy was insane. The Hell in the Cell with the Undertaker, where he gets tossed through the roof. He gets tossed off the roof through a table, thrown into spikes. I mean, Jesus Cripes. Females, yes, it's very like back in the day. They were just eye candy. You know, you'd hope their boobs would come out. But I am going to keep saying Trish Stratus because she even came back and had a pretty great match at Elimination Chamber. So Trish for sure, but I'm going to the new era, and I'm going right to what I know right now. And there's some women that I think are better than the men at this point in time. I really dig Tiffy time. All right. So Tiffany Stratton. And who's the other one? And I think Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is an absolute animal. So
yeah, she's. I don't watch wrestling, but like Rhea Ripley stuff just like makes its way into like YouTube or like random feeds from time to time just because of how popular.
Yeah, and you should see who she just married, dude. I mean, he looks like he's 7 foot tall, 350 pure muscle. And it's like, that's the perfect dude for her because she is bigger than me. Like, she looks like she works out 10 times more than I do, and I appreciate that. Bianca Belair. I mean, the women right now are insane. Like, I mean, the women's division is fantastic. So, yeah, there you go. There's our wrestling talk. I love wrestling these days. All right, here's my question for you. Which pantheon of old gods are the coolest, and which version of the afterlife sounds the coolest?
I mean, honestly, I don't remember a lot of them. I mean, from my recollection, Roman and Greek gods are essentially the same with different names. The Valhalla, like Norse gods, are also like, in terms of like coolness factor, I really do think that Valhalla probably has the coolest gods. So that ranks up there for me. Is Valhalla.
Yeah, I mean, I think the deepest knowledge of the old gods would be the Greek gods, which most are based on anyways. The Viking gods all share similarities, but I'm with Nick. Valhalla seems to be the place to go. You essentially just get in and fuck and drink and just do that all day long. So can't beat that. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Up next, SW from the Discord. With spring supposedly here in the north, the scent of grilled food is in the air. My question is, what is on the grill? Brats, hot dogs, burgers, steak, or got to go, the Anakin roast is done? I know you're in the South, so it's been warm for a while. Any grilling yet, or is it even too hot to do that?
Yeah, so mostly what we grill is like we'll grill up like chicken breast, chicken thighs, we'll grill up burgers, and then like occasionally we'll throw like we've definitely done brats before, but it's not one of the foods that we eat most often. So it's mostly like burgers and chicken for us over here. Yeah, that's our go-tos.
Yeah, I literally just grilled this past weekend for the first time in the year because I live in a shithole, and it was burgers, and they were good. They were from Omaha Steaks. It was the filet burgers, extra juicy, extra lean. All right, thank you everyone for Ask Us Anything. That was a good one, little long, but hey, everyone needs to hear their voice being spoken on the SWTS. So let's get moving here, Nick, keeping things on schedule. Checked out 2 movies for you all this week. I'll be very quick on these. A Working Man starring Jason Statham is exactly what you think it is, and it is glorious. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's basically, think Taken, but with Jason Statham, and Jason Statham being Jason Statham. He's pretty much the same character in every movie. He continues to be that badass in this movie. It's a fantastic kind of revenge flick. It deals with human trafficking, but it's not really portrayed in a way that's going to make you feel awful inside. It actually makes you wish that there were more people like this guy going around dealing with justice on their own versus our actual, police and stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, it's basically zero plot, but it's a lot of shooting, a lot of fighting, and a lot of killing. So 2 thumbs up from me.
Sounds like a Jason Statham.
It's fantastic. I mean, listen, if you like the guy, you'll like the movie. It's pretty much his MO. You know what I mean? And he's kind of a bald brother, right, Nick? I like to look up to Jason as someone that looks like he works out a little bit and doesn't have a lot of hair. He's kind of my role model.
Yeah, him and Vinny Diesel. Yeah, that's the
I probably look a little more like Vin Diesel these days. I haven't quite lost all my Christmas pudge, but I'm working on it. Beekeeper again, it's fine. It's good. I mean, he just goes around and fucks people up. Like I love movies like that. I mean, come on. All right. And the next one, I took a flyer on it just because I was like, wow, this seems really weird. And I got zero promotion for it. I didn't even know it was a movie. And that's Death of a Unicorn starring.
Dude, I want to see that. Okay. Because it looks so
I checked it out on Monday. Like I said, just taking a flyer out on it. And I was like, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, it is different. It's out there. Like the concept of unicorns, and it is pretty far out, but pretty well done. It's definitely providing a statement on humans and greed and all that type of stuff, especially with the elite. So I understand the messaging it was going for. It is an A24 film, so if you love A24, which it's hard not to considering their track record, it's good, but it's weird. Like, it's just a weird concept. It truly, the whole movie, and this isn't giving anything away because it's on the poster, the whole movie is framed around the death of a unicorn.
There you go.
Have at it. Yeah, all I mean, right. It's nice. Something else. And Jenna is great in it. Paul's great in it. Will Poulter might be the best. I mean,
dude, it's like Will Poulter, I haven't seen him in a lot of stuff, but the stuff that you watch him in, he's just like, he stands out because he's just so awkward and funny.
Yeah, and like, Nick, isn't he a guy, like, he's kind of a child actor, and you looked at him, you're like, oh yeah, he's always just going to be kind of Will Poulter in the background, like Nick said, kind of the goofy looking, he kind of looks like a Howdy Doody type of character, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
But he's put out some banger ass work, man. Like, he's gotten some roles where it's like, Will, really? I mean, when they made him, what's his name in Guardians of the Galaxy? Like,
Adam.
Yeah,
Warlock,
at first you're like, really him? But it works, and the character he plays here, which is kind of a spoiled, disenfranchised, nepo-ish type of baby, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. A24, like I said, they just continue to tickle my weird fancy, if you will. All right, here we go. Some Star Wars news. For the past few weeks, Nick and I have been teasing there's going to be an announcement at Celebration to finally reveal Respawn and BitReactor's Star Wars turn-based game. We are wondering what type of TBT will it be, and we are both leaning towards XCOM. Well, last week, towards the end of the week, there's a supposed leak from an artist on this website here, this MP First, whatever the hell that is supposedly showing off some early screenshots of the game. So I got those up now on the live stream here. And it's exactly what we thought. This one big image you're seeing if you're on the stream, I don't know if that's from the game. It doesn't look like it's from the game, but these ones down here do. And as guessed, Nick, it's dead on XCOM if these are legit.
Yeah. I mean, this is about as XCOM as you can get. If you've played those games, you know exactly how they work. It seems like this one works very similarly. So, I mean, you can kind of take it as you please, right? Like, is it just a reskin? Is it just an XCOM skinned as Star Wars? If that's the case, then like if you've never played an XCOM game, then you're in for a treat, because I do think that in turn-based strategy, it's probably the best one out there. Very strong. The development team at BitReactor came directly from Firaxis, who was the original developers of XCOM. So they're very, very tried and true in this genre. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to try it out. I'm not the hugest fan of those style of games, but if things move quickly, because typically what can happen with these type of games is like a stage can take a long time to get through.
Oh, yes.
And if you are a person that has like, I got 30 minutes to play a game, maybe you're not going to be able to make it through a stage in 30 minutes. Like it can get long. But I'm definitely interested to try it out. I really do think that Star Wars could be a really good franchise or a very good property for this style of game, especially given how many different types of characters already exist, or different types of combat characters already exist in the world itself. So you don't have to do a lot of making things up to make Star Wars work in an XCOM world.
Yeah, I know. My tone introducing this was kind of down, like, oh, it looks like XCOM. This could be a great thing. Okay, I've played XCOM. They're very fun. I do like that type of gameplay. Sometimes I do, like Nick said, just give me 45 minutes to play through a level where I actually have to think and be strategic, make some gambles, roll the dice a few times, and kind of test out my strategy and tactics. The question is, and we don't really get it from the screenshot, I mean, the gameplay we're supposedly seeing features Bo-Katan and Paz and a droid taking on what seems to be clones. So who knows what era it's going to be set in, or if it's just random missions. I hope there is some sort of story behind it, kind of like XCOM uses. We also looks like we have the hub world here, and you can see Ahsoka standing over a table. So maybe you'll get Jedi characters. Maybe they'll probably be close quarters, or maybe healers, and then you'll have your long range, which will probably be your soldiers and Mandos. It's promising. I don't think this gameplay or game type is for everyone. So I get you bat down there. It does not look super inspiring. But if you do love the idea of you have to pick a squad, and that squad's abilities are going to affect how you play out a strategy on a given map or a mission, it is kind of enjoying. All right.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't going to be like deep single player type of narrative experience like you were getting from, Jedi Fallen Order, or the Jedi series, or something like that. Like typically in these games, the story itself is kind of an umbrella, and you're more of like the grunts on the ground that push things along. So, I mean, we'll see how it comes together, but I do think that having a game like this is just good for Star Wars overall.
Yeah, so it's looking good, and again, these are leaked, and they could potentially be quite old. So let's not start poo-pooing on a leak here. Bango. I hope no one is. Yeah, I don't look at the market anymore, man. The market's gone. We're going to be in a recession. So yay! But we don't talk about that stuff. Okay, I'm not trying to be arrested in my state at this point in time after a bill just passed. All right, go America. Okay, the other game that is announced, and this is official, this is coming right from the StarWars.com. Hey there, League. That's right, Bat. Hot toys are going up. Maybe that'll finally get me to stop buying them, because everything's going to be more expensive these days, because we're making things great, right? Okay, Star Wars Beyond Victory, a new mixed reality playset from ILM, will be available to Celebration Japan goers. It's going to be exclusive for MetaQuest 3 and 3S headsets, and it's going to be set around the time of the Solo movie, and you're going to be playing an up-and-comer pod racer named Volo Bolas, who teams up with Sebulba. So I'm not entirely sure on what makes this mixed reality versus virtual, Nick. Is that what the hell does that
mixed
mean?
Reality... Yeah, mixed reality essentially, to my knowledge, means that you can still see the real world, right? Like there's still aspects of the real world that are brought into like the game, or like the visual aspect. It's going to be more
like an augmented reality view versus just seeing a virtual world in a headset.
I think that's kind of what it's lending itself to. Unfortunately, I don't have either of these headsets. I have the MetaQuest 2, so I'm not going to be able to play it.
I'm surprised you even jumped on VR.
I did it initially because Taylor and I used to play a lot of Beat Saber. Like we would play that game all the time, and Beat Saber is super fun. Like if you've never played Beat Saber, or if you've never played like something like that,
Guitar Hero with lightsabers.
Yeah, exactly. Super fun. Lots of different songs and stuff like that, but yeah, didn't upgrade to the MetaQuest 3 or 3S at this point, so this is a little bit out of my reach. But hey, it is interesting to see that ILM is still dedicating resources to VR, because like since the release of Quest 3 and 3S, like it seems like interest in VR has kind of waned a bit.
Yeah, it was a huge push when I was still in the video game media, and like any time it becomes a huge push, it's in everyone's face. Everyone's trying to develop for it, and then like any other time they try to introduce these new ways to game, the software dies out. Therefore, the hardware becomes useless, and then you're just left chilling. I mean, that Star Wars, whatever the fuck it was called, Squadrons, was a fantastic VR experience. But that's pretty much that, and Beat Saber were the only good games on for PS Vue. So you need software to back up this type of movement. All right.
And yeah, it's just a hard cycle to try to get into.
So there you go.
But yeah, if anybody out there has a 3 or 3S and picks this game up, let us know your thoughts, because I'm definitely interested to see what this has to offer. So,
well, or any of the, I know some of the fans are headed to Japan, so maybe they'll check it out and they can report back after the event. All right. Thank you, people.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, it kind of looks dumb, to be honest with you, but you never know. Okay, real quick, because we already did kind of talk about this and we're running light on time for our main segment, but we did get the Tales of the Underworld reveal today. Good looking poster. It's going to be Cad Bane and Asajj. And honestly, Nick, we can glean some speculative juice just from looking at the poster, if you'll hear me out. With Bane, it 100% looks like his 3 stories are all going to be set before his Clone Wars debut. And how do I know that? Well, in all the shots we're getting, the poster included, he does not have his life-saving tubes installed yet. You got to remember that guy, even when we saw him potentially die in Book of Boba Fett, what kicked on there at the end? His life support system started beeping to maybe juice him back to life. So contrary to popular belief, Cad Bane did not always have those breathing tubes coming into his neck as we can see from the poster. And it looks like we're going to meet Cad when he's a kid. Damn near baby, maybe.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's going to have this friendship with what species are these fuckers again? Anybody? I know they're not Bith, but whatever they are.
No, they're not Bith. He is a Duro.
All right, Duro. So it looks like he's best friends with this green Duro. Something happens to where Bane goes away and might start kind of getting on that gray edge of the law. And it seems the green guy is going to become kind of like a sheriff. And something's going to happen between these two where they're ultimately going to have a duel. Is Bane going to kill his old friend? More than likely, but it could also explain how he gets his breathing tubes. I'm thinking this Tales of the Underworld for Bane is going to show, A, how he used to be a normal person, what turned him into the angry-ass, very competent bounty hunter, and hopefully how he got his life support system. That's kind of what I was picking up from that. From the trailer, really. I mean, you know what I mean, though? Don't you think this is going to be pre-Clone Wars Cad?
Yeah, I mean, unless there's a lot of timeline jumping, then that's probably what we're going to get. I am interested to see because, I mean, like, typically with these types of, Tales of series, you do have like a crossover moment between the threads. So I'm interested to see where, I mean, and obviously we do see in the trailer that Cad and Asajj will cross over and run into each other and stuff like that. But I want to see, like the timeline aspect of this is the most interesting thing to me, because obviously the next question is like, is this why they brought back Ventress?
Yeah, honestly, Nick, I don't think Cad and Asajj are going to cross paths at all in Tales of the Underworld. I really don't. People bitching about the stream. I don't know what to tell you. Welcome to the club. I see there's a lot of frames dropping. I'm still sending 8,000K to YouTube. So it's probably a YouTube issue to be honest with you. But kind of like I think Cad's is going to be very similar to Ahsoka's Tales of the Jedi run, where we literally see her as a fucking baby. And then the next episode, she's Anakin's Padawan. The final episode, she is on her own doing that thing on the farm. I think Cad's going to be set. We're going to meet young Cad. We're going to meet slightly wonky Cad, maybe figure out what kind of sent him down his darker path, and then finally we're going to get Cad thrust into his life of being one of the most feared and efficient bounty hunters in the galaxy. But I'm pretty sure all three of Cad's episodes will predate the Clone Wars. Again, the giveaway is he doesn't have his life support system. So hopefully we get that answers. Now, for Asajj, Nick, I actually think we get more about her 3 episodes in the fucking poster than we did in the trailer, at least timeline-wise. If you follow me on the poster, people, if you look at the very top slice of her circle, that feels very Night Sister resurrection ceremony-ish.
Indeed, it does. Yeah, this looks very, very similar to what we saw with like Savage Press and even like Maul and stuff like that during their time with Night Sisters and stuff.
Yeah, so her
Night Sister
her
magic.
First episode is more than likely going to explain away her canon death in the book. I then think episode 2 and 3 will be pretty tight and stick fairly close to each other in terms of timeline, because I think this is where she's going to be tasked with protecting this Padawan. And I believe, Nick, and I know like this is kind of my area, you're the book guy, but the guy that is like, oh, I know who you are, was he not one of the admirals in the Galactic Republic?
He did look like it, right? Like he does look like he was an old Republic.
Yeah, and I thought all of them like just crossed over to the Empire, so that's why I was like, that wouldn't make sense, because then why is this guy not still with the Empire? Because Asajj's stuff, the only thing I don't know, Nick, is it pre her Bad Batch one shot or post?
Yeah.
Because she's wearing the same outfit. It's definitely resurrected Asajj. So I'm guessing it's going to be post Bad Batch based on some of the writing here from StarWars.com. But it seems she runs into someone who knows who she was during the Clone Wars. And I think that this guy, if he is an old Republic officer, I think he's the one that has the kid, and he's going to be the one tasking Asajj with protecting, training, doing whatever.
Yeah, I am very interested to see the relationship between Asajj and the kid, because there's like a lot of people who, or like there's not a lot of people, but there's a lot of like speculation that can go on there, because we've never known Ventress to have a Padawan. We've never known Ventress to train anybody else either. So if this is the case, and we find out that either she is now like taking this kid under her wing, or, you know, like where does he pop back up? Is this a story that continues post Bad Batch, and now we have like a separate series with Asajj? I guess that's like my most, you know, the thing that I'm wondering about the most is like, where are we going with this character? And, you know, is this going to be like the introduction to a larger scale series that's kind of focused around her? Or is this
probably not, based on how the other Tales of series have gone? So
that is very true.
Honestly, Nick, it could fully, like I said earlier, this could be it. Like, this could fully wrap the story of Asajj that they feel they need to tell. Because, I mean, she does face an unnamed Inquisitor, it looks like. I mean, we know it's none of the Inquisitors we've been introduced to. I mean, he's an alien. He's got a wonky looking helmet, but he definitely has that red lightsaber that can spin around, and he's got Sith eyes. I could see her Tales of the Underworld shorts ending with potentially her linking back up with Quinlan and maybe taking this kid to the hidden path, and we get that introduction via Totu.
Yeah, so we'll see. Just like my thoughts in general on the Tales series, I would really like to see exploration outside of the standard timelines, like Clone Wars timeline and, you know, prequel era timeline, because it seems like that's kind of where we're sticking. I know that we have Tales of the Empire that dives a little bit into the Imperial side of things as well, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity to explore characters with a Tales series that are, you know, timelines that need a little bit more love, whether it be the, you know, the Acolyte timeline, like the High Republic timeline, or the sequel timeline, or somewhere around there. I think that we've had so much focus on these characters in the prequel timeline for so long that I do think that it may be time to shift some of these tales, especially considering they're just shorts, over to timelines that could use a little bit more love. So,
well, like Props and Devin were saying, I think earlier in the Discord, I mean, it's Filoni's toys, and he wants to play with them. I mean, his name is all over the Tales of franchise, by the way. Like it's his. Oh, yeah. So he's going to keep busting out his characters. Unfortunately, it does not seem we are leaving these early, not heavily produced, but there's a lot of content at this point in time for the prequels, post-prequels, in original trilogy, and even now post-original trilogy. We still have a damn near 40-year gap from Mando to the sequel trilogy that is ripe for the taking, or High Republic era type of content, or like young Nick was spitting last week, let's go way the fuck back there.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, that would be like, to me, that's like the Tales series is like the best jumping off platform, as like Bango said, Devin said too. Like, it's a good way to like, hey, we're going to intro you to these characters with these shorts, but then we're going to use this as like as a platform to then say like, hey, we've now introduced you to the Old Republic timeline with these shorts. We're going to throw you into a whole animated series about the Old Republic, or a whole animated series.
Does anyone remember how they there's a lot of kind of soft launched Star Wars Rebels? It was literally 4 15-minute shorts that kind of teased the characters that would be involved, and then bam, you had the series launch like a month or two later. So
yeah, I mean, my thing is like, Filoni is very talented as a character builder and a world builder. Like, we've seen that through the animated series. We've seen that through, you know, the Ahsoka live action TV show and everything like that. It's like, put those skills to work in times that need it, right? Like in timelines that need it.
Yeah, keep fixing the freaking sequel era, my friends. Come on. We did it for like, the prequels. The sequels deserve it now.
Yeah, give it some love. Give it some love. So we'll see where things go from there. But yeah, I am very interested to see. More so for me, I'm interested to see Asajj's timeline because they specifically brought this character back to life for something. So I am interested.
Before we get there, which one do you think's going to end up being better, Cad's 3 or Asajj's 3? Like lore like character development and overall lore layering.
I think character development wise, it's going to be Cad because it seems like we're going much further back, and like there's like you're going to see why, like you were saying, why he becomes who he becomes. I think that lore wise, it actually is probably going to be better on Asajj's side because you do seem to have a lot more interplay with like potentially a member of the Hidden Path, like
right? The Empire itself, she gets mixed up in. She's definitely fighting stormtroopers with her Padawan.
Yeah, so I think it could be a little bit of both, which is what I hope. Like the Imperial side of things, there was clearly like, you know, the Barriss storyline was just fell off a cliff and like was almost hard to watch. Like, so I really do hope that both of them are good in their own ways. And if it's Cad's better at character development and building from his past, and then Asajj is better at layering in stories and then adding context into eras, then I would be totally fine with that. So,
all right, we got Bango out here starting to think that Filoni might be a one-trick pony.
I hope he's not, man. Like the guy can tell stories and we know he can do it well, but it almost seems like he's hesitant or reluctant to reach outside of his comfort zone.
I guess we'll see how he kind of sticks the landing on Ahsoka season 2, which is fully his baby. So we'll see. We shall see.
You know, his characters, his timeline, his baby. So let's see how he does.
All right, my man. I think it's about time to dive into our deep discussion. Probably won't be that deep. We'll see where it goes. Mm-hmm. But we want to kind of figure out which side has true unlimited power, the dark or the light. So we kind of have 12 discussion points to frame this around, and you fans, hopefully by the end of this, will be able to decide for yourself. Hey, these two idiots made some great points one way or the other. It's the light side. No, it's the dark side. No, it's both. No, it's being gray or in the middle. That's where the true power comes from. All right, we'll try this out. This is kind of a new thing here. There's no lists. There's no real countdowns. It truly is just an open-ended discussion framed around, I think, some pretty intriguing talking points that should help support either one of our case for the light or the dark being more powerful. All right.
There we go.
So the first thing to discuss when we try to decide which side is more power is defining the power itself, Nick. What does strength truly mean in the Force? Okay, so what I mean by that, to you, do you believe power is more about raw strength, influence, wisdom, or longevity? Because clearly strength and influence, those are our dark siders, where wisdom and longevity, those would be our light siders.
Yeah, and I do think that, like, for better or for worse, I think that all four of them can really apply to the dark side. Because if you look at, what is Sheev's thing? Sheev's thing has always been longevity. Like, he already achieved the strength. He already achieved the influence. Like, he was able to take over the entire galaxy. And then after that, it was, all right, I've got the strength. Like, took out these Jedi, in a 3v1 fight in my own office. I soloed Yoda 1v1 in the Senate chambers. I have influence over the entire galaxy. Now his whole focus was on longevity and how does he keep it, even to the point of like figuring out essence transfer and being able to live in a corpse body and all that stuff. So I think that when it comes to strength, to me it is more of like an individualistic conversation to have around like how specific Jedi or how specific Sith view power.
Well, yeah, I was going to add that that's kind of the follow-up here. I mean, how do the Jedi and Sith define power differently? I mean, Sith, it's pretty clear. And Anakin struggled with this he's like, I'm better than that. I got the power, blah, blah, blah. So Sith, they really do focus on the actual literal definition of power, their physical power, their power over the dark side, their power over people, their ability to dominate. Where Jedi, it's more I think they look at their power in their wisdom, their ability to kind of reflect and meditate and act when the time is right. So, I mean, between those two, which side do you think is for you to, if you ask the Jedi, what does strength mean in the Force, what would they tell you?
I think for them, it would definitely be like the ability to resist temptation and focus their abilities and their power on helping others. Like like their power would be in service at the core of their
you nailed it
tenets,
right there.
Right?
In service.
Yeah, like at the core of their tenets, a Jedi believes that they are the protectors of the galaxy, and they are arbiters of peace in the galaxy. So they're there to help others that are in need. So their strength is not in their strength of arm or in their strength of ability, but it is in their ability to protect the people of the galaxy.
So then a Sith would say, my power lies in my ability essentially to dominate anything, anyone, or the galaxy itself, as Palpatine showcased.
Yeah, and it really for a Sith comes down to by any means necessary, which I think for a Jedi is the big difference. Like the Jedi have very strict tenets, and they also have very, very strict do's and don'ts about like, hey, you can do this power, you can't do this power. You can do you can't interact this way, you can't interact this way. You can't have this relationship, you can't have this relationship. So their ability and their power comes from their limiting beliefs, where a Sith is more focused on like, hey, I have an end goal, I know what I want to achieve, and there is nothing that I won't do to achieve it. And there's, from a very human perspective, like you see that play out every day. Like there are people who have who have goals and aspirations and desires, but they're also like, there's just things that I won't do to achieve those. Those would be your Jedi type of people. And the Sith are the ones who are like, I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get it done.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what I was going to say. At least to wrap up this talking point, I, for one, believe when we're just talking about what does strength mean in the Force, defining its power, I think we have to give it to the light side users, because I think it takes a lot more power to be controlled, patient, very diligent at what you're doing or what you're working towards, versus, like Nick said, just drinking from the cup of power and like Anakin did, taking a shortcut to achieve more power. So I think this one, I would lean the light side users actually require more strength to give themselves the power they seek versus a Sith. Yeah,
strength of will is definitely more of what.
Next one here. This is a philosophical debate between the two sides of the Force. We got one side that's about its passion, so the dark side. Other side about serenity. We know that the light side is more about balance, and the dark side is more about domination. So, Nick, if I asked you, and we know this, Darksiders, they draw their power from emotion. I mean, we just talked about Sion last week. He literally kept himself alive through his hate. Vader would become stronger the worse he felt about himself, the more hate he had. So do you think that actually makes their power potent, or do you look at that as almost being weak?
I think it does make them strong. I do think that leaning into your passion and leaning into your emotions can be a very positive way to approach something, because it gives you motivation. It gives you a lot of like self-derived motivation through your passions. I think the biggest thing for Sith is that like they lack the ability to control that emotion when it matters the most, which is why they always fall. Like in that fight, like in the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi, they're both fighting from different places. Like Anakin is fighting from a place of passion. Obi-Wan is fighting from a place of serenity and balance. But that is a very evenly matched fight until Anakin loses control of his emotions. Like if he's able to keep his emotions in check and use his passion and use his innermost desires to propel himself, then he might have won that fight if he could control it. For Sith, it has always been a lack of control more than them drawing on a less pure sense of power, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I guess I could ask you about the light side, and you already said it yourself. The light side truly does rely on balance and discipline to derive their inner strength. So do you think does it make their strength more sustainable by going about it through balance and discipline versus just raw emotion?
I think that it can be, but I also think that doing something like that can lead to frustration over time, which again, like you see in Anakin, it's like I'm doing everything that the way that the Jedi are telling me to do it. But
too slow. It's just too slow.
Yeah, it's too slow. It's not achieving the goals that I want to achieve, and then also like, if you are only drawing on a belief of a higher power, which is kind of what the serenity and balance leads to, is like, like trust in oneself, but also like trust that what is supposed to happen will happen, which is essentially like the sense of serenity that like there is an order and a balance to the way that things work. So I just have to trust in that. Like what you can do, like what that can lead to is a lot of like complacency and stagnation, which is what we saw in the Jedi Order. They're like, hey, look, man, like things are out of our hand. We are merely vessels through which the light side of the Force runs. We are not the ones to tell the Force what to do. And that's when you run into issues like you saw with the Grand Republic and the Jedi. You know, they were not proactive enough in their approach and thus did not see the danger right under their noses.
They had a little too much balance and discipline at that point in time.
Yeah, a little too serene.
Overly disciplined to not react or trust their own emotions. So, all right, exactly. All right. I guess sticking with this one, do you believe for a Force user to truly master it, that they need to have balance, or is a true mastery of the Force dominating it?
See, in my opinion, there is like balance is, and maybe Star Wars scholars or George himself will disagree, and I'm sure that George does disagree with me here, but I think that balance truly is a balance of understanding how and when to use the different aspects of the Force. You know, like sometimes, domination, is just it is you asserting your will in a way that puts you in a position to achieve a goal. And that doesn't necessarily have to be for a bad thing, right? Like you don't like when you're on a football field or something like that, or you're playing sports and like you're putting on a dominant performance, like you're asserting your will over your opponents. Like that's not a bad thing. It's not like you're being evil, like you have channeled your abilities in such a cohesive and strong fashion that like the person that is your opponent just can't stand up to it. So I really do think, in my opinion, that the best Force user is one that understands the balance between the light side and dark side and can use them in ways that they are called for, that doesn't necessarily hurt others to achieve their ends.
Yeah, so I mean, even with this debate, it's still, at least to me, it feels like light side is deriving more overall power from the Force through their balance, through their discipline, through their patience. All right. Next discussion point on our debate between the light versus dark, which one is more powerful? And now we're looking at the speed and longevity. All right. So the dark side, we know it's very short-term strength. They want it as quick as they can get it, as fast as they can get it. Where the light side, theirs is all about the endurance. But let's talk about this taking the shortcut. We just used it with Anakin. Look how bad it fucked him up. But think about dark side users that grow powerful quickly. It's usually at some sort of cost, right? When Palpatine did his unlimited power, Nick, what did he do? He essentially fried his physical appearance, right? He was deteriorating. He was deteriorating through his dark side energy when he was put into his cast body, his clone body. He was just so evil and dark side powered up that he was eating away the clone flesh. We had Anakin's downfall again by taking the easy way out. But then we also have the light side users who will cultivate their strength over time. Okay, Yoda is probably the poster boy for this, considering how long he lived and how long he was a Jedi Master. But we could also look at Obi-Wan and the patience he showcased, not only with his Padawan, who was kind of wild, kind of disruptive, kind of a whiny bitch, but also after the fall of the Republic, he sat idly by for essentially 18 years outside of a quick excursion to go help Princess Leia. So thinking about that way, Nick, again, does it require more power to kind of just let time build it up? Or do you think you get more power if you just snatch it right away and go take the easy way out?
Yeah, so on Palpatine's side in particular, like he was definitely a long game player. Like he was around, like Palpatine was around High Republic timeline, you know, like he was around a long time and really did play that long game. And I think that his is actually like a very good, like his rise to power is actually a very good example of cultivating strength over time. I think that him being able to sit and wait for the right moment and then strike while that moment was there is a fantastic example of how you cultivate strength over time with manipulation. While on the light side, typically what happens with the light side is they're like, we're going to win out over time. And it's just a natural cycle of things. Like, I don't think that Yoda was necessarily a good example of like cultivating strength over time. Because if you look at his arc, ultimately his arc probably went like this and then down from there. Like he didn't really have a comeback up moment unless you
hey man, he went toe to toe with Dooku in a hangar and could have beat him if he didn't want to save his friends.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that the actual better example of the long game of this is definitely Palpatine for sure. Like the Jedi were in a position, and the reason I say that is because for hundreds, thousands of years, the Jedi were in a position to cultivate strength over time, and all they did was get
pissed
weaker.
It away,
and they got weaker to the point to where like they were able to be overthrown by one Sith who really did play the long game and understood that the long game is not just waiting until the Force gives you what you want. It is waiting for that opportune moment and then striking when that moment is ready to be fulfilled. So yeah, I think that the light side users tend to become very complacent in their
I
long
agree
game.
with you. I'm going to give this one to the dark siders because Palpatine's a good example because he was kind of a hybrid if you think about it. He did bide his time. Who knows what he was doing in his personal time to give him physical power and strength. But once he knew his plan was going to work and he was going to get Anakin, what did he literally proclaimed unlimited power. Started shooting shit out of his hands, so much so that, you know, he's burning his own face, and he knew he was going to do it. He was so drunk with the idea of like, yeah, my long game finally paid off, and now I have unlimited power. And he sure as shit did, because he was able to run roughshod over the Jedi Order and most of the galaxy for the next 18 years. So yeah, I'm with you. I think we give this one to the Darksiders. All right, next one here. So as we're trying to figure out which side of the Force is stronger, of course, we have to talk about, all right, how about some of these powerful Force users? Who was stronger overall? Nick, would you say was Palpy stronger than Yoda? Was Palpy stronger than Luke and vice versa? And then eventually you could probably even throw in some of your Legends characters. Were Force users on the light and dark even stronger back in the day before these versions of Force users?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in a world where a majority of your dark side users that are, you know, either canon or Legends are presented through video games or through novels or through, you know, non-silver screen type of play, it always seems like the Darksiders are more powerful. And the power conversation in Star Wars is always kind of hard to approach because it's like, by what measurement are you doing this? Like, it's hard for me to find a light side user that could be more powerful than somebody like Darth Nihilus, who literally drained the entire life from a planet.
This one to me is, it's as much as we love our Jedis, I don't even think this is a debate when it comes to just pure power in the Force. That's essentially what the Sith are. That's all most of them aim for, outside of the long game thinkers like Bane, Sidious, Plagueis, the ones that had the big visions of total galactic domination. Outside of that, that's what they strive to be. How physically powerful can I be in the Force? So that's their thing.
That's
just kind of their mantra when they meditate, if you know what I mean. All right, that was an easy one. This one I think is intriguing to think about, and we're talking about combat prowess between the sides of the Force. What side has the advantage to you, Nick, when it comes to combat? You know what I mean? I mean, Sith, we know they'll dominate one-on-one duels, but the Jedi, they're pretty good at winning massive organized battles. Sith Lords, when we see them, though, they seem pretty damn competent with that saber when it comes to dueling, because they do. They embrace aggression. They embrace their hate, which is going to power them up. So when it comes down to combat prowess, which side do you ultimately think has the advantage over the other?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that Sith in one-on-one battles are really hard to match, and it's because of their mindset, right? Like the old school style of Sith, where you have to become as strong of an individual as possible so you can usurp your master, and that led to them being some of the best single one-on-one combatants like in the galaxy. In terms of like. So I think if it just comes down to combat prowess, like if I'm going to put, Darth Revan versus Satele Shan in a 1v1 battle, I think that Revan comes out on top, because because Darth Revan has no limits to what he can do, right? Like if I'm fighting you and one guy's like, I'm going to kick you in the balls, and the other guy's like, I'm not going to do that because that's messed
mean.
up. Like you put yourself at a disadvantage. And if you're a Force user and it's like, I'm going to shoot lightning out of my hands at you, and your opponent's not going to do that, like you have more tools available to you. So I think in a 1v1 combat, I think a Sith is more than likely going to win, unless it gets to a point to where like they lose control of their emotions. But like we're kind of conditioned to believe that that's just like the default standing for Sith, is like, well, eventually they're just going to lose. They're just going to go crazy and they're going to lose it. But that wasn't always the case. Like there are a lot of Sith who had the ability to control their emotions, control their power, and control their ability to keep their cool in a fight. Yeah. And I think that because they don't limit themselves in terms of what they feel comfortable doing, they probably have that 1v1 combat prowess.
Yeah, I agree on the 1v1, and really, depending on the scale of the battle, I think Sith could do some pretty dubious things. I mean, Nihilus just sucks a planet dry. We Palpatine and Vader blow planets up. You know what I mean? I mean that's an edge when it comes to combat prowess. But I think when it comes to meeting on a battlefield, we have a battalion of Jedi and a battalion of Sith. I think over time, even in the shit I don't read, the Jedi ultimately win those types of battles, right? I mean, the Jedi were able to almost extinct the Sith to the point where they had to do the rule of two and kind of stayed in the shadows for many, many millennia. We saw what the Jedi could do in the Clone Wars on an organized battlefield. The Jedi, back during the Mandalorian Wars, took on a warrior culture and ultimately won. So this one's kind of split. In smaller battles, more intimate battles, I think the edge in combat prowess, like Nick explained perfectly, goes to the dark side. When it comes to more strategic, actual war games, that's probably going to favor the light side.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate as well.
Next point here, talking about their respective abilities. So dark side abilities versus light side abilities. This one, I don't know. I mean, I'll throw some things out there to kind of inform you, Nick. I mean, on paper, which are more powerful? We're all going to be like, well, fuck, lightning. But think about what we've seen some Jedi can do. Yes, Sith, they have the Force lightning, Force choked. They're always trying to make themselves immortal. But are they really superior when you consider that Jedi can heal themselves? They do the mind tricks. They have precognition. And as we know, they truly can achieve immortality much easier than the Sith and become free roaming spirits through their Force ghosts. So this one, you know, like I said, the first time you read it, it's like, yeah, I mean, clearly the Sith's abilities are more powerful. But if you think about what the Jedi can do, and just sometimes the longevity it may give them, maybe that means they're more powerful. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a question of like, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the combat abilities versus like, hey, I just know that at the end of the day, I'm gonna become a Force ghost and I'm gonna be around and I'm gonna hang out and I got that shit on lock. So for the most immediate purposes of like, hey, we're going into a fight, what would I rather have? The ability to Force choke somebody and lightning them down, or the ability to maybe get a heal off on myself and save my life? I'm probably taking the Sith abilities.
All right, I like it.
And like even we've seen Kylo can mess with people's minds. Like we know that the Darksiders have that ability to mess with people's minds as well, whether it be just like directly through manipulation. They
get right in there. They're like a perfect therapist. They can drill right into what you're thinking and pull out things you don't want to share.
Exactly. So like they have that ability to break your mind as well. But yeah, it's like it's the question of like, which do you prefer? Like, do you want to live forever as a ghost? Do you want to? Is that like your ultimate goal? Is to live forever as a ghost, or is your ultimate goal to be able to say like, hey, I was the best lightsaber combatant
like I said, this
ever.
One's tough.
It's so hard to measure this one.
This one's tough because I mean, just on paper, most people are probably gonna go, yeah, Sith. I mean, their abilities are nuts. I mean, they fucking choke people out. They can explode their heads. They can suck their souls. Yeah, that sounds pretty powerful. But the Jedi, if you think about what they can do with theirs, that is also a form of power. I mean, think about, you know, even people that we are dead that still have power over us. That is true power. We all have those types of people in our lives. Sometimes they might not even be family members. They could be historical figures. Look at the power of the Constitution from a bunch of dead guys. Okay, that is power. All right. I mean, these guys wrote a piece of paper that, you know, who knows what's happened to it these days, but for hundreds of years, it provided guiding principles on how a nation should exist. That is some fucking power. Like those dudes got some power. So this one, I think we could almost say is a split. It really comes down to how someone views the definition of power. Is it, again, is it through that dark side lens of domination and raw strength, or is it through the endurance, the longevity, and the ability to affect more people over a longer time period?
Yeah. And I mean, you know, like, you don't think about the Jedi as having like galaxy-wide power and influence. Like usually, like, but they do.
Of course.
Like that's the thing is like the Jedi Order literally existed as almost a governing body in terms of like what is good and what is bad in the galaxy. Like they were the ones to say like, hey, like if they were to hear like, you know, somebody saying like there's somebody using the Force this way in the galaxy. Well, if the Jedi say that you're not supposed to do that, then guess what? You're going to have people that hunt down whoever is doing that and stopping them. Like that is an incredible amount of power for them to wield over the free will of other beings. And like, you've never really looked at the Jedi in terms of that, because it's always like, well, they're doing it for the good of the galaxy. Like this guy shouldn't be able to shoot lightning out of his fingers. That's not cool. But it's decided that it's not cool by the Jedi. And, you know, like they have an incredible amount of influence over the galaxy, but they don't use it in a domineering fashion.
Again, like you could argue is a sign of power. Like not giving in to temptation is a power, I believe. So, all right. I think, again, we still probably split this one. So next up here, dark side corruption versus light side resilience, and how do those play? Man, AI was getting a little copyright friendly these days. It's like, oh, hey, that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. All right, so using the dark side definitely corrupts the user. I mean, we've seen this. Some Sith literally deform themselves; they lose their humanity. Where you have on the light side, they can fall. They can, Anakin is the perfect example of this.
Anakin, Dooku,
but they can't.
Revan,
they can redeem themselves. So, do you think, Nick, that ultimately makes the light side a bit stronger in this category? That, hey, they might face some adversity. They might even go completely 180 and do some heinous shit for 20 years. But because of their light side and because of that resilience, they can kind of take themselves out of it and give themselves some form of redemption, where dark side users, the ones that kind of buy into it, full shoot and match, the corruption pretty much makes them irredeemable.
Yeah, I think that if you're looking at it from that lens, at least I don't know of anybody who's like started on the dark side and like was like a very powerful dark side user, and then all of a sudden they just like they switch sides. I mean, honestly the closest that you would get is Ventress, but Ventress was like started dark side and then kind of came to neutral and didn't really she didn't go all the way light side. She was just like, I still do the shit that I do, but I'm no longer like,
she didn't go to the temple on Coruscant. She became a fucking bounty hunter. So she's still pretty morally gray.
More like dark to gray than dark to light. I think that when it comes down to it, it's like you have like when you're a light side user, I guess technically you have more to lose, because it's like you have that ability to be seduced by the dark side and then fall to it and then become a slave to its trappings, for lack of a better term. But for dark side users, it is literally a chosen path, and more than likely when you follow this path, this is what more than likely will happen. So it's just I look at that as someone almost being weak when you give into temptation. So I think this one ultimately, I would go light side. It gives them a bit more power, that they have their ability to most of them avoid the temptation, but some of them that do bite the apple then still have enough resilience from their light side roots to kind of redeem themselves. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Next talking point here. We know League wants to be a gray Jedi. This dude looks like Robert Pattinson with an extra big eye, and he's sad. But we got the gray Jedi. Is there truly a middle ground when it comes to these Force things? You know what I mean? So would you consider someone like Qui-Gon or Ahsoka, are they proof that you can have this balance that isn't just full-on Jedi or Sith dogma?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I do think that, like, I don't think that there are bad Force powers and good Force powers. Like, that's just not the way that I've thought of it. And I think
guns don't kill people, Nick. People kill people. Right?
See, yeah,
that's what you're saying, right?
That's it.
Yeah,
that's the most similar thing in our world. But I do think that it is literally like, if you understand the power of the Force and how things are used, then there is a middle ground between the very, very strict dogmatic way of the Jedi and the very, very loose and like do whatever you need to do way of the Sith. I think that there is a problem with the Jedi 100%. Like, having such strict adherences that everybody has to stay to, the only thing that leads to is just like the inability to understand certain aspects of the Force, and then when confronted with them, you don't know how to do, like, what to do against it. I think that there should always be education around, like, you know, I don't know, like the more unsavory as it's presented to us now, like the more unsavory side of the Force, or the side of the Force that it's looked at as like the bad side of the Force, because understanding how it works and understanding how things function just in terms of like the mechanical way that things function gives you the ability to know how to combat it if it's put against you. So I think that like limiting people's abilities to learn, it's a bad thing in every respect. So I think that there is a middle ground that should be like what everybody strives towards. Like everybody should strive towards like understanding how things work, how things can be used, and when the best situation things like that can be used for.
So if I ask you, Nick, I think I know where you're going here. If I ask you, if a Force user does reject both extremes of the light and the dark, would they ultimately, or could they ultimately become the most powerful Force user?
I think they could. I think it's because they would have the most understanding of the Force than on either side. You know, like having and ultimately that's what like power in the Force is knowledge. Mm-hmm. Like the Force isn't built around like how far can I push this guy with a Force push, or like how much voltage is coming out of my hands with a Force lightning. Like
I'm shooting 20,000 milliamps out of these bitches. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, like the Force is all about knowledge and understanding.
Very astute.
And yeah, and like I think that when you intentionally limit yourself and how much you are allowed to know, you can never be as powerful as you.
I'm going gray, bro. When I get my Force powers, I am gray all the way. All right, next talking point here as we try to figure out which side of the Force is ultimately more powerful. Let's say, would Anakin have reached his full potential if he stayed Jedi, Nick? So if he stayed on the light side and got better at his patience, he found some serenity. What do you think? Would this dude have become... Would he have become the chosen one, the most powerful Force user in all of the galaxy if he just bided his time? Did he really need the dark side to unlock his full power? Or could he have surpassed the likes of Yoda and Palpatine if he just stuck to the light side of the Force?
I mean, I think that he would have surpassed Yoda for sure, just given like... question there is like, how long would he have lived, right? He's a human, and humans have much shorter lifespans than Yoda's species, obviously. I think that like, ultimately, I don't think that he would have, because he would have lacked understanding.
Only if Anakin went to therapy. Good one, League. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that like kind of going back to the last point is like, when you lack understanding, you lack the ability to be as powerful as you can be. Like when you lack understanding about an entire side of your life's pursuit, there is no way for you to be as to unlock the full range of power, right? Like there's just no way for it to happen, because you've ignored an entire side of it. And I think what makes Anakin Skywalker special, and what makes Anakin Skywalker a point of talking for like potentially being the strongest ever, is that like he has experienced both sides of it, for the good and for the bad, you know, like, and one character that has also done that, and this is again through Star Wars The Old Republic MMO, of those of you out there who have read it, like it was Revan. Like Revan was a character that was kind of built off of Anakin in a way.
Yeah, but what was his M count, Nick?
And yeah, that's another thing. We don't talk about M count over here. We don't talk about M counts over here. But yeah, I mean, like Revan was a character that was a Jedi Master and a Sith Lord, Dark Lord of the Sith Master. Like this dude was literally master on both sides of the coin. And in the Star Wars MMO and Star Wars The Old Republic, like he tells you that he's like, I have mastered both the dark and the light, and it gives that character a very unique perspective. And I think for Anakin Skywalker, it gives him a unique perspective as well. And I truly don't think that he would have like been the most powerful Force user ever if he just would have stayed on the light side.
Honestly, I'm with you. I do think Anakin, who he was, he did need to dabble. He needed that to kind of juice himself, or he felt he did. And whenever you feel like you need something, you're going to commit to it. So I agree. I don't think Anakin would have reached whatever the chosen one was supposed to be, even if he stayed light. He had some shit. League surmised it the best. Dude needed therapy. That was his biggest problem. 100%.
Yeah.
All right, next talking point here. So if we think about it, and maybe this helps us get closer to which side of the Force is more powerful. We do, and Nick just talked about two of them, Revan and Anakin. But we got Rey, we've got Count Dooku. There's a lot of characters that have used both sides of the Force, and they kind of use it differently. You know, Rey didn't really use her Force lightning to, well, I guess she killed a whole ship full of troopers, so there is that. But Luke kind of uses a little bit of a Force choke in Return of the Jedi. Definitely uses Force chokes in The Mandalorian against automatons. We had, like I said, Rey with the Force lightning. Kylo Ren becomes Ben Solo again. So, when we think about these characters that have dabbled on both sides, you sometimes have to evaluate, well, how did they dabble, and what does that say about them and their idea of power? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that Luke is the best example of this. I think that for Rey, it was more of like an uncontrolled burst and like
a little emotional reaction for sure.
Yeah, like for Luke and Mando and even ROTJ using the choke on the Gamorreans and stuff like that, it did show a little bit more of an understanding that, like, of what I was saying before, is like powers themselves don't like. We call a Force choke just think about this. Like, we call a Force choke because the first time we saw somebody use it, he was choking somebody. But ultimately what that is, ultimately what that is just like, it's just manipulating the Force in the same way that you would manipulate a push or a pull, which are looked at as like light side abilities. You just target
someone's esophagus.
It's like, but if I was to do that on like technically Dooku Force choked that tank, and like that's what came and fell on Yoda. But like, you can use those abilities, like the ability to grab something you see Jedi do all the time, but it's not called a Force choke. It's just them. Oh, he picked up that cup with the Force. So I think that like what Luke in The Mandalorian and what Luke in ROTJ was showing is like kind of what I was talking about before, is like understanding that like they're like, not all Force abilities are inherently good or bad. It's how you use them. And having that understanding shows like a bit of elevation beyond even like the Jedi and like their understanding of how things were, and understanding like, so I think what it really comes down to is like having a deeper understanding of the Force and how you can use it, and understanding that like not everything is black and white, good or bad. Like, oh no, I used the Force choke to pick up this cup. Does that mean that I'm bad? Like
20 lashes in the temple.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when I look at this, I can kind of defer someone's inner power. And I think you hit the nail on the head with Luke. Like, Luke has power over himself and his abilities to the point where he knows when he should use the choke and how far to take the choke. I do think that having self-control, to me, is a form of power. So I would probably lean this one towards the light siders, or those on the light side that have dabbled in both. They typically use the powers. Luke, probably the best example, in a way that makes sense for the situation, to where it isn't being done just to be evil or to dominate someone. It's to make a point. Oh, you're going to stop me from coming in? No, you're not. Right? Oh, you're an automaton that is murdering all these people, and you probably could even take me out if I don't start using some of these powers. Sure, I'm going to go ahead and crunch you up with the Force. All right. So we got two left here, and then we'll move on to the fan segment. But the penultimate, when we think about it in terms of the influence over the galaxy, which side has had the greatest impact? And, naturally, Nick, when it comes to the dark side, we know for a fact that the Sith have literally ruled empires and toppled governments. That is pretty influential and very powerful. But as Nick has said throughout this discussion, the Jedi have literally shaped galactic policy for thousands of years. So ultimately, Nick, which one is more powerful to you? The ability to dominate and rule, or the ability to shape policy for an extended period of time?
Yeah, I like this question because I can refer to Kamir. And Kamir said something that was really great. Like, ultimately, what he alluded to, he's like, you think I'm bad because the Jedi have told you forever that I'm bad. But why am I bad? I haven't hurt anybody. I've only defended myself. Or I've only used these powers to do things that have benefited me, yes, but have not hurt anybody. So why am I bad? And that's ultimately what the power of the Jedi is, to convince the entire galaxy that their way of thinking is the correct way of thinking, and anything that goes against their way of thinking is bad. And I think that ultimately that's the power. Yes, in the films and how everything that we've seen around the Sith, it's been explicitly bad. Yeah, they're blowing up planets, they're enslaving people and alien races, they're killing indiscriminately and stuff like that. Of course, even for people who have no deific moral structure, those are bad things. But ultimately, if there is a Force user out there who's also a tinkerer and a mechanist, and if they use Force lightning to power one of their creations, is that bad? Or is it bad because the Jedi said that using Force lightning is bad because we've seen bad people use it? I think that ultimately what it comes down to is the ability for an entire galaxy to base their morality off of what you think it should be.
That's power. That's some power. Legit propaganda. You know what I mean? And I'm with you. I do think the Jedi take this one because, the Sith, you might see it. It might be in your face. Yeah, they took down the Galactic Republic. But as the armorer said, what did it mean, though? They only lasted 18 years. Is that really, is that truly power?
Yeah, and ultimately, during their reign of power, everybody was well, this is we know we have to fight against this because the Jedi told us that this isn't right. And obviously with the Sith, it's very much more explicit. It's a lot of explicitly bad things that are being done, because Star Wars in general is not good at showing the gray. And I think that the reason that people had problems with the Acolyte is because the Acolyte as a show existed in the gray. It showed you that the light side Force users of the Jedi, there's some gray there, and people were uncomfortable with that.
Jedi are pure of heart, Nick. It's blasphemy. Yeah. All right. Last point here to bring it all home, and then we will settle this once and for all. But Nick, the future of the Force, what comes next? So if we think about where we are at by the end of the Rise of Skywalker, Rey has risen. She is all the Jedi, or is she? Palpatine is gone for good. So where do we go from here, Nick? Do you think some of these future stories, maybe Simon Kinberg's the Rey movie, if it ever comes around, the Sean Levi movie, will we potentially see a shift towards a more balanced type of Force user, or will we still get the extremes where we have Rey as the pure Jedi and a new dark side Lord rises to match them or meet them or whatever Snoke said?
Yeah, I for me, I really do want there to be more of an the Force has always been presented to us as this is what it is, and I would really like for Rey and the whatever future storytelling that happens with Rey to really be focused on exploration of the Force and an understanding of the Force, not only just for that character, but for the audience, because I think that the audience has a very, very black and white view of the Force. And I think that in some instances in the Clone Wars, you got to understand, you were led down paths of understanding and knowledge and discovery. But I would hope that that's kind of the path that we take moving forward as well, because I think that if we're just presented with narrative again that that just kind of parrots what we've already heard. That like, okay, well, Rey has the Jedi books now, so guess what? She's just going to teach off of the Jedi books, and where's that going to lead? It's going to lead right back to where the Jedi led, falling, and then the cycle continues as we've seen it forever now. I think that there does need to be an exploration of the Force as a whole, and not just of the like what the old Jedi decided were the good things to learn. I do hope that there is a paradigm shift in that, and that like Rey feels comfortable seeing a possible future for herself as a dark side user, and seeing like, you know, like the powers of the dark side, and understanding that like her story is one that was wrought from the dark side. Like she is literally born from the blood and lineage of one of the most powerful dark side users of all time. Like let's explore the Force in a more intentional way, instead of looking at it as like, well, this is what the book says, so let me do what the book says. So that would be my hope for what the future of the Force holds, is like understanding, exploration, and then, you know, exploitation in some ways. And what does that lead to? And you know, a new paradigm.
I'm definitely hoping for something a bit different than just light versus dark, Jedi versus Sith. I would like a more of a hybrid approach. So I guess only time will tell. Will Simon give it to us? Will the Rey movie give it to us? Will they ever see the light of a theater? Who knows? But that wraps it up. So Nick, you know, thinking about all the points we went through there, can you yourself determine which side of the Force is more powerful?
I think that for me, the power to influence the minds of the people of an entire galaxy to the point to where they just look at somebody who does something the wrong way, or what is perceived as the wrong way, and be like, oh, they're evil. They are the dark. Like that is the power. Like, is it awesome to be able to shoot some lightning out of my hands and to you know, pull Star Destroyers down with the raw power of my Force abilities? I think that's awesome. But yeah, I think that like the Jedi's ability to convince an entire civilization of people that like their way is the right way is power.
It's called religion, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think I don't really need to say much. You pretty much summarize exactly what I would say on paper. Yeah, the physical strength, the raw power, legitimate raw power on the dark side, 1,000% is like, yeah, they're going to be more powerful. But like you said, the ability to affect billions over thousands of years, and how they think about your order and what is right, what is wrong, what should be done, which should not be done. It's not even close. The light side nukes the dark side when it comes to which side of the Force is more powerful. All right, everyone, thanks for sticking around. We will kick through this fan segment quickly here. I know we're probably going to be a little 10 minutes over. That's all right. We do our fan segment every week. There's two ways to get involved. We've got the question of the week, which is posted on our socials, so make sure to get involved. You just got to follow, turn those notifications on, and like I said earlier, you got to interact. If you don't interact with us, the algo is going to bury you. So first up, Nick, we have a little bit of question of the week. We asked the fans out there, hey, which side do you think is more powerful?
Yeah. There we go. So we got some good responses here. People came out. They know what power is, right? So Dank Ferric Toy says dark side is faster, more seductive. It may seem to be more powerful, but is raw, undisciplined, and uncontrolled. The light side, it's harder, slower, but eventually with enough discipline and self-control, it gives more power. And this not just applies in the Force, but for our own life. There you go. Super Scoundrel says dark side is powerful in short term, but they will inevitably fall to their own hubris. So light side in the long term. There you go. Shogun Day Sith says the dark side, Darth Nihilus and Darth Vitiate, 8 worlds, Darth Sidious, Adendu, and Momin, mastered essence transfer. Visas Mar, Nihilus' apprentice, has dark transfer, which is force healing, but it is more effective, especially in battle. So there you go. He's looking at the. There you go.
DEI. What the fuck?
I said day. I assume he meant day as in like God in Latin.
All right.
So Shogun Dei Sith. And then B. Dixon Photo says, seems like it's always the dark side because everyone likes an underdog. I mean, honestly, that's the thing too, is like the dark side is always the underdog. And when they come up and win, they're like, look, they did it. They did it, man. After 1,000 years, they fucking did it. So he says dark side. 2797 Studios, Mr. Bat says, read in your best Yoda voice. Balance is what the force is. Stronger or weaker, neither side are. Light will rise to meet the dark. Dark will push back the light. Eternal struggle is this.
You sound like Bane when you sound like Tom Hardy when he was Bane in Batman.
Tom Hardy with Bane. Yeah, there you go. I don't have that. I can't do that like gravelly.
Oh, you can't, dude! You nailed it. That made my day. That was awesome.
B Mad says, considering in almost all canon light side triumphs dark, even if only temporarily. Yeah, I mean realistically, like the power of dark and light is cyclical. Like there's times when dark wins, there's times when light wins, and it's always cyclical. And League, Wheel of Time, it's always cyclical. One always comes around, but to me, the power is really in the power to affect the minds of the populace. Bango says, I say the light is stronger. Luke used it to defeat the dark, but as Yoda said, the dark is more seductive and easier to use. Doesn't make it more powerful, though. It's like a 50 cal sniper versus a 22. Both can kill people. One is harder to use. One is way more powerful.
All right.
There you go.
Look at this guy. He must be smart.
Next up, SW just says, or just SW says, I am the mind. It takes more strength to be in the mindset of the light side of the force. However, the dark side is more explosive. But does that make it stronger or easier to use? Let's face it. It's easier
so
to
much
hate.
easier to hate.
So much. You are 100% true, and that's a reality that we live in right now, is that it is easier to hate.
I kind of miss when I was more of a hateful person than trying to be positive. I'm not going to lie. I think it's been breaking me down the past 4 weeks, dude. It's like, it's too damn hard to try and be nice. All right.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle to stay on the light side, especially in times of darkness. But that's what we do. All right, we're gonna move on to the top 5 Star Wars fan artist features of the week. I'm getting tired out here. My voice is faltering. To get involved, make sure to follow at StarWarsTime.show on Instagram and tag us. Tag at StarWarsTime.show on all of your Star Wars Instagram posts. That's how you fall into our tagged feed where I pull the top 5 from. And here we go. Optimus Prime kicking it off. And look, we were just talking about this guy a lot. Palpatine, Darth Sidious, and what a shot of the Dark Lord of the Sith here. I mean, this is Hot Toys, but this looks like a real person. This is insane. The level of detail and everything that Optimus was able to catch in frame here.
I've gotten lazy again, Nick. I cleared all my Hot Toys, was so proud of myself. Now 5 have come in over the 2025 season, and they're just sitting in boxes next to me. I think that's a sign that I probably should stop, right? Like when you've been waiting sometimes over a year for a toy you spent usually $300 on, and when you get it, you just sit it next to your chair. That's probably a sign that I have a problem and need to stop. So thank you.
There you go. Good stuff here from Optimus.crime on the Instagram. Make sure to follow. Next up, another character we were talking a lot about. This is Great Spartan Figures giving us a shot of light side. This is Commander or General Anakin Skywalker. He's on the battlefield with Rex and the boys. You can see that he's fighting off those B1s and all those CIS baddies. Is this true power? General Skywalker, is this true power? Who knows? But I mean, this is an awesome shot for sure.
Yeah, Great Spartan Figures. They're kind of new this season. They haven't really interacted with them until 2025, but they definitely always get some good looking shots. Looks like they are a fan of the Digirama. Interesting perspectives with the camera almost laying on its side on the ground, but great posing, good effects, quality toy photography from the Great Spartan Figures, and best of all, their handle is all one word. Unlike a lot of you that need 55, underscores and hyphens and all that shit. Or dot shows like our dumbass.
Hey, that's us. Sentimental Scoundrel is next up, and Sentimental Scoundrel is giving us a scene recreation ROTJ inside of Jabba's palace. This is still when you got Hutt Slayer Leia, as she's known as now, right?
I still call her Slave Leia. I'm not going to change that stuff, dude.
But you can see all the members of the Jabba crime family there, the Kamorian Guard. You got Bib, you got Boba, you got Dengar, you got C-3PO in the background, Salacious Crumb there as well. I mean, it's a good setup here and then Luke Skywalker right there.
It's fucking, I mean, it's literally a scaled down version of Jabba's palace. I mean, it's pretty damn impressive what Sentimental is built up here, because I think this is all practical, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty awesome work here for a practical setup and shot from Sentimental
If there's any toy people still alive in chat, is there a new Slave Leia that's been released, or is Sentimental using like a custom head? Because my Slave Leia, very much like the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan Kenobi, looks like all they did their entire life was huff paint. This one looks kind of spot on, like she's not dazed and confused. So good looking work here from Sentimental_Scoundrel on IG.
There we go. All right, Dank Ferric Toys. We just talked about their take on power, and let's take a look at this shot here. So what we have here is a awesome shot of this is exiled Kenobi out here. In the desert of Tatooine, you see the twin suns in the background.
Steak.
Oh yeah, he's got himself a feast here of Womp Rat. I mean, this is a great shot. I love the coloration in the background of the sky, that like orange to purple coloration as the twin suns of Tatooine do their dance. The posing is great. The setup here of the little campfire, even like a little cup there, a little tin cup on the edge of the fire pit. Overall, I really love the setup here from Dank, and he even shows you what it looks like in the BTS if you click through the screens there. So if you're trying to do a shot like this, you can just use Dank Ferric's setup. See if you can make it look the same. So good stuff here from Dank Ferric.
They're busy
on Instagram.
Good name, and they keep busy. Lots of great posts. Check them out on Instagram. As Nick said, Dank Ferric with a period toys.
All right, and to close out the top 5 this week, we got
Obi-Wan's like, what do you want, motherfucker? Let's go.
What the hell, man? What's going on? I actually like this one. I love I even love the posing of the stormtrooper in the background. Articulated Plastic is who we're talking about. Articulated_plastic.
Like Anakin, my bro. Instagram. Come on, man. We used to be friends.
On, man.
Brother, you were my brother.
Yeah, it's like I can almost hear Obi-Wan in an Italian accent, like like an old Italian mobster. Like, hey, what are you doing out here, man?
That's
what are
exactly
you doing?
What he looks like with that pose. But I love it.
Yeah, so this is essentially a shot from the Kenobi series. You see Vader confronting Obi-Wan out in the streets. You see this stormtrooper out in the background that's running to assist his Dark Lord. A Jawa tucked behind a pillar there to keep out of the Dark Lord of the Sith's ire. And then Obi-Wan just being like, "You are my brother, Anakin! You were supposed to bring balance to the Force."
Oh, he's like, "Hey, what's up, dude? You want to go get some spotchkin at the bar? Let's go."
Been a long time. But I also love the depth of color in this too, like the color saturation in this.
The lightsaber effects are titty. I also like that Obi-Wan is holding his lightsaber with like the OK sign. Do you see that?
Yeah, he's like, what? Yeah. And what are these figures, man? Like, are these?
I think these are figure arts. That looks like a figure art type of head for Kenobi. I'm zooming in there, scrolling through.
Yeah, if you scroll through, you get the close up on Kenobi's face, and
it's like the figure that remember when I rocketed TLJ Luke Skywalker off the side of my house with a 90 mile an hour fastball. It's from that line.
Gotcha. Okay. I was like, man, this definitely looks like a different face for Kenobi than what I've seen in the past. But cool shot, cool setup here from articulated_plastic on Instagram. That's the end of the top 5. That's the end of our show for this week. So Matt, go ahead and close us out.
All right, people, like he said, it is time to say goodbye. I do thank you all. I didn't think I needed the show today or even wanted to do it, but in the end, I definitely feel better than when I started. So I appreciate that. Got a little SWTS therapy, at least allowed my mind to not focus on real life stuff for a couple hours. So I appreciate all you for that, tuning in here. League, looks like you're the only one kind of hanging around. I apologize for the special segment. I could tell it was a dud as soon as we started. Everyone just stopped talking. We literally killed the chat with it, Nick. So we'll do better. We'll get better. Don't worry. We only have one more week of special topics. Then we can just get lazy and focus on Andor Season 2. That's right, people. So next week, we'll be pulling something out of our wazoos as always. Week after that will be our patented, never to be repeated before a new Star Wars show starts special, our wants and predictions for Andor Season 2. And then obviously, once we get around to April 23, we will be in Andor S2 breakdown mode. All right, my friends. Thanks, League, for sticking by. Sorry for boring you for the last 45 minutes. We can't always pick winners. Devin, we speak your name too. Thanks for slogging through that. I really was there, Nick. There was a point in time where we were like 3 slides in. I was just about to say, you know what, man, fuck this. I can see we've lost the room. Let's just go to fan segment.
It's a deeper conversation than we typically have on the Star Wars
I thought we could get something with it. Maybe we spent too much time before we got into it and kind of used up everyone's enthusiasm. But I would say that was one of our greatest fails when it comes to a special segment. So
may have good clips out of it.
Yeah, my apologies, friends. I'll get better next time. If you got any ideas of what you want to hear us talk about next week, shoot it up in our Discord. We got an open invite link in the description of this video. Don't forget, in between shows, you can always find our content on the main socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube predominantly. We throw some stuff up on TikTok as well. And we do still at least post the top 5 and our audio-only podcast on StarWarsTime.net. All right? StarWarsTime.net. That is our home on the internet, at least for the rest of 2025, because I think I have plans to phase that shit out as well before we have to pay the next electric bill. All right, people, we speak your names as always. Keep beating that SWTS drum, even though it sounds or feels like we are slipping even more into oblivion these days. Kudos to those out there that have figured out how to break through, like the Beyond the Dune Sea channel. Whatever they've done recently with their tier list has taken them into a new stratosphere, and we respect that. We wish we had it, or at least I do. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's why things are starting to kind of slow down and get phased out over here at SWTS. I think we're going to be running a leaner ship in 2026. Stay tuned. All right, my friends, there's always time for Star Wars Time. And if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, the Force will be with you, and you always.